Hey, Stebbins friends, it's Miss Swanson here talking at you. I am talking at you because we are having a really hard time getting on top of this coronavirus in our village and in our community. And the doctors from Norton Sound thought it might be helpful if somebody from school took a little time to explain things like why so much testing and what's the deal with coronavirus. So I'm here to do that for you today. So let's talk first about why it's a big deal. It's a big deal because right now, thankfully, nobody I don't think here has had any really severe symptoms from the virus, but we don't know that that will continue because everybody reacts a little differently to the virus. So we want to make sure that it doesn't continue to spread and risk having someone get really sick. And it could be so bad that they get medevaced out and they have to be on a machine that helps them breathe because their lungs don't work so well. And we know that it spreads fast and it spreads easy. So that's why we wanted to talk about quarantine and about testing and why they're so important. So let's talk first about testing. Let's think that maybe you got a call from the clinic or from one of the nurses or doctors that's here visiting, and they told you that you've been a close contact or you've been in touch and hanging out with someone who has tested positive for coronavirus. That means that you've been with that person long enough or often enough that they think you might have it. So you need to test 3 times. The first time is that as soon as you can, after you get that phone call, you should test as quickly as you can. We'll call that like day 0. And then you need to test 7 days later after that, and again 14 days later. And I know that seems like a super long time, but here's why. So, well, let me back up and explain what's going to happen with the test. So, what they're going to do, you know that they stick that thing up your nose, and what they're really looking for is some of your snot. This is why I don't want to be a doctor. So they're going to poke that up there and they're going to try to find in your snot little bits of coronavirus. That's why they are swabbing in your nose. They send it away and they look at it and they try to find little bits of coronavirus. That means that you're sick with coronavirus if it's there in your nose. So maybe you get a negative test that first time. That's great, but it doesn't mean that you're in the clear. It might mean that you actually are sick, but it's not built up enough in your body, or you're not sick enough quite yet so that it's coming out in your snot. That's why they need you to test again 7 days later and even again 14 days later, because they know that everybody's body is different and everybody develops the virus differently. So it may take up to 14 days to build up enough in your body to show that you have it in your system. So that's why it's really important that you do all 3 of those tests all the way out. Because we know that you can be contagious up to that point. After 14 days, they figure you're probably in the clear and you're not going to get anybody else infected. You're not contagious to get them infected. So then let's talk about the second thing. That's quarantine. So this is really all about keeping people who are sick or might be sick away from other people so that the other people don't get sick. That's what it's all about, is not letting anyone else get sick. And so it might look like a couple different things here in the village, but it really is about keeping that separate space. So some people, maybe some of the older, adults in town or older kids or whatever, might choose to live in a house, a separate house, that where other people who are doing quarantine are living together until the time passes and their families are back kind of living normally in their own house. Or especially with littler kids, they may do a quarantine in your own house where you would be in your own separate room and not with other people, and be really careful, like not to be touching a lot of stuff in the house that other people can come and touch after you, because we know that that's a way that the virus spreads. Um, and I can't really say this, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but now is the time for all of you school kids to be using your phone. I know normally I'm the one that's trying to take it away from you or tell you can't have it at school, but this is what cell phones are designed for. It's for you to reach out and be in touch with your friends because I know that that is super important. I don't want to take that away from people because I don't want people to get bummed out or to get depressed or sad. So it's really important that you reach out and try to touch base with your friends, but do it on the phone. Call them, text them, Facebook message them, FaceTime them if you can. Do some crazy TikTok COVID dances or some craziness for TikTok. Post what you can, but stay in touch because it is really important. Um, so I just want to remind you that please, please, please do all 3 tests and do quarantine right all the way through the end of that third test. That means please don't be hanging out with your friends at night because that's a big problem. Certainly don't sneak out after your parents have gone to bed and go hang out with them. The difference. You can be one of the people that really help squash this virus in our town. And that is amazing. And the last thing I want you to know is that I really miss you, students. I really miss you, kids. Even those mornings when you're really crabby with me and I'm obnoxiously cheerful, I still miss you. So please do what you can to squash this virus so that we can come back to school as soon as possible. Know that we miss you and that I love you. Take care.